What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan back here with the latest edition of the Sherdog.com betting show as we look forward to a big weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. Two huge bantamweight fights on top of the Bellator and UFC cards this weekend. We have the champion Sergio Pettis taking on Kyoji Horiguchi over in Bellator, and the legend himself, Jose Aldo, takes on Rob Font in the UFC at the top of their card. Bellator Friday night, UFC Saturday night, so it's great. A whole weekend of mixed martial arts for all of us. And I'm here today to give you my top 5 bets. 4 bets that I think will win, and a 5th one, a flyer, a big money bet, which may or may not win, but sure, we'll have a bit of fun with it anyway. Please bet responsibly if you're listening to this. Don't bet more than you have. Don't bet more than you can afford, and even bet less than you can afford to bet. This as well for me. I'm not a betting expert. I am an MMA media member who's been doing it for 7 or 8 years, and I look at the fights. I look at who I think might win or may win. You know, maybe you'll get an idea not to back someone from this rather than to back one, but I'm no betting expert with units and all of that, so please don't take any serious betting tips from me. You might get a tip or two in terms of the fight and how I think it will go, but other than that, yeah, don't take this too seriously. But let's have some fun and let's look at some of the odds here. So I'm just going to get straight into it, and I'm going to give you my first bet, and I'm going to start at one of the main events, and I'm actually going to end with one of the main events as well, with my flyer of the week. But my first bet of the week is going to be Kyoji Horiguchi to win at minus 170. I feel a bit bad because I only talked to Sergio Pettis there about an hour ago. So I feel bad picking against him. But it's one of those fights I just think, look, I easily could have picked Pettis at that price, plus 145. But if I kind of asked myself, if they were even money, if they were both the same exact price, who would I have picked? And I probably would just pick Horiguchi. I just think at this stage of Horiguchi's career, and I know he's had the injuries and everything like that, but I just think it's going to take the very, very best in the world to beat him. You know what I mean? It's like, and I know he's lost to Kaya Sukara and he came back and he won that fight again, but I honestly think where Horiguchi is at the moment and the ability he has at the moment, it would take, a Mighty Mouse, a Cejudo, someone like that, again, at the very top of their game to beat him. And now I do think Pettis is very, very good, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying Pettis, is not a worthy champion in Bellator or anything like that, because I absolutely do believe he is. I think he's a very, very good, very, very good fighter, and he deserves to be in the spot where he is at the moment. But I just do think Horiguchi is kind of on that level where he, you have to prove that you're in that level before you can beat him, if you get me. Like, I think his attacking game is just phenomenal, really, really good, and I think to be able to break that down and get your attacking game going is going to be very hard. Like, it's funny, when I said speaking to Sergio, I kind of asked him about his countering game against Horiguchi, and he didn't really answer that question, but he went and said, like, I'm gonna break down Horiguchi and I'm going to attack him. And I was like, oh, well, that's obviously something, he was thinking about. And obviously something that is part of his game plan coming in here, that he wants to get the center and he wants to push forward against Horiguchi and try to kind of own the middle of the cage and own the kind of the space of the fight, or own the tempo of the fight, something which I talked about on my preview. It's probably already be out by this stage on our YouTube as well. And look, that's not necessarily a bad idea, I don't think, the only problem with that is I don't think he'll be able to do it. I don't think he'll be able to stop the forward motion of Horiguchi. I don't think he will be able to, catch Horiguchi in such a way where Horiguchi's offense is taken down notches. I just don't think he will be. No, he will in parts. He will, and I think his countering game is probably a better way to do it than his actual offensive game itself. But I do think if he does try to take the center and try to win that battle with Horiguchi, I don't think it'll go well for him, to be honest. I really don't. I do think Horiguchi, like, I expect this to go long. I think it'll probably be a decision, maybe a little bit longer. I was looking at decision prices. They weren't great. But yeah, I've spoken about this long enough, so maybe I'll leave it at this. But I do think Horiguchi will just be a little bit better than Pettis. I could see Pettis maybe winning a couple of rounds late. But I do think Horiguchi will have enough, maybe in the first 3 or 4 rounds, to win this one. But a fantastic fight, in my opinion, the fight of the weekend. Maybe Fiziev versus Riddell is up there as well. That's a fantastic fight as well. But this is a real top level fight, and I'm really looking forward to it. Right, bet number 2. I'm going for Jamahal Hill here to win by a decision. Jamahal Hill to win straight up. Sorry, at what I have him as there, plus 165. He is over Jimmy Crute. Now, I was kind of surprised when I saw that Jimmy Crute was a minus 190 favourite on this. And this is one of those things that I've mentioned on this show before. I have a quick scan down through the best, just look at their prices and see which ones kind of surprised me a little bit. And this was the one that stuck out to me. No, actually, none other really stuck out to me. I think they're all pretty fair other than this. And now, I might be wrong, but I'm not ready to write off Jamahal Hill yet. I think he's one of the top prospects in that division at 205. I know he lost to the Bear Judah Scott in his last fight, Paul Craig, but I think that might be more to do with Paul Craig and maybe Jamahal Hill underestimating him a bit. Like, you ever see a fighter sometimes where they need a loss in their career? You know, they might be a little bit too cocky, or they might be a little bit too confident. We saw James Gallagher here in Ireland when he lost to Ricky Bandejas a while back, and he came back and he's looked better since. Okay, he lost his last fight, but it doesn't take away from improvements, and maybe the improvements to your mental side that you have to make to kind of come back and be better from it. I think that loss for Jamahal Hill will do that for him. Now, I might be wrong, and maybe I didn't read into it enough, but I think people are reading into it too much. I think he has such a well-rounded game that he is like elite level prospect. And look, Jimmy Crute is very good as well. Don't get me wrong, he's a very, very good fighter. But I think Jimmy Crute is kind of a guy who, if he has like a top level career in him to get to the championship level, I think it might be later in his career, kind of like, the likes of the guys that are right up there now at the top. But at this stage of his career, I just don't see it at the moment. I don't see it, and I do think I think he's just a little bit of a better athlete. I think he's faster. I think he hits very hard as well. Now, Crute hits hard and he's good every result. I'm not writing off Crute at all, but I just think Jamahal Hill will be a little bit smarter in this one. He will pick his shots a little bit better. And I think a plus 165 straight up, I like that one. I really like that price on Jamahal Hill. And like, it's one of those fights where if this fight had happened a year ago, or whenever the Paul Craig fight was, if it had happened before that, I think Jamahal Hill probably would have been maybe a minus 250 favourite here. I think he'd be a big well, maybe not that big, because Jimmy Crute's a good fighter as well, but I think people thought he was very good, and the only reason he has been downgraded so much is because of a submission loss to this like sneaky submission artist who is unbelievable at it and underrated. So I'm not ready to write off Jamahal Hill yet, and plus 165, yeah, I'm definitely going for that for Jamahal Hill. Right, next one here. I'm going for Morono by decision at plus 120. I just think he's such a good fighter. He's so, like, when you're fighting, I obviously know Reese McKee here very well, and Anthony Pettis and everyone that. When you can go in there against guys like that, and Pettis especially, Pettis top level fighter, and kind of break them down over 3 rounds, win a decision over 3 rounds. It is, it takes a very, very good fighter to do that, right? It takes a very, very good fighter to do that. And I think Alex Morono is a very good fighter. And he's another one of these guys as well, right? He reminds me a little bit. He reminds me of like a Court McGee or someone like that. A guy who will be in the UFC for years and years and years. Maybe never fight for a title. Maybe never be, a top 10 or top 5 ranked guy in the world, but will always be there. Will always have tough matchups. Rafael Assunção, someone like that. Always be difficult for guys coming through. And I think him by decision, what did I say it was? Plus 120, yeah. Him to win straight up is minus 210, which I was actually expecting to be a little bit less, to be honest, than that. Against Mickey Gall, obviously, who's plus 180 to win. But look, Mickey Gall's a good fighter, and I'm kind of 50-50 on it to go to a decision, to be honest. But, Mickey Gall, I think, has improved. I think he's tough. I think he'll stick in there with Morono, but I think Morono will win all 3 rounds here. I think Mickey Gall, maybe in the first round, he might come out well, but I think Morono, even if Gall puts him in trouble, he's the type of guy that will come through it. He's the guy that can take 7 or 8 or 9 shots and keep going and win the next round, and has really good cardio, good enough to kind of keep going when maybe a younger opponent you would think would have a better run of it. But no, I think he is, I think he's very, very good. I also don't think Mickey Gall's striking is maybe up to the level of someone like Morono, who has good takedown defense, and I think will make it a kickboxing match. And if you can kickbox with the likes of Reese McGee or the likes of Anthony Pettis for 3 rounds or less, I think you can do it with Mickey Gall as well. Now, if it goes to the ground, maybe a different story. Mickey's very good on the ground. I think his striking has kind of improved a little bit, Mickey, but I think Alex Morono is very good and just tough and gritty. And at this stage of his career, for Mickey Gall, I think it's maybe too much of a step. Sometimes we forget Mickey. He came into the UFC and he's only 3 or 4 fights into his career against CM Punk and Michael Jackson and those lads. And maybe we think that he's been around or been, he has been around for a long time, but maybe we feel like he's more experienced than he actually is. Whereas he's still a young fighter in his career, still improving. I think he can improve. I have a soft spot for Mickey Gall, but yeah, I think Alex Morono here, by decision plus 120. I think that's a good price. I'm going for that one. So the next one I've gone for, this one I really kind of went back and forth on. It's the Fiziev versus Riddell fight. I was looking at it just to go to the decision. I was looking at the lads straight up, and I was looking at lots of different things. But what I've gone for in the end, I've gone for Fiziev to win by decision at plus 210. Now, that's a pretty good price, I think, at plus 210. The decision by itself, I think, is minus 185, just for either of them to win by decision. So I think that's the best price that stood out to me. Fiziev himself is minus 122. Riddell is plus 102-ish. They're both around the same. I see in other places here that Riddell is a slight favourite and Fiziev is a slight underdog, but they're just about even with both of them are here. So it's one of those fights. It's one of those fights where I went back and I watched a few of their fights, and both are really well rounded. Both can fight everywhere. Riddell powerful, guy who can go 3 rounds. Fiziev, I think that might be the one thing with him. I think maybe the distance, but it's still 3 rounds here. But I think his cardio long term might be a slight bit of an issue for Fiziev. But I just think he's a little bit too much. I just think Fiziev is a little bit too much. I think those kicks to the body, I think those kicks to the leg, I think he's power inside. And just there was one fight of his where I was watching where he's fighting up against the cage, and it's just his power in that area as well. It was only a brief interlude, but you look at things like that and you're like, oh, he's not just powerful when he's striking. He's not just powerful, in his all-round striking game. He's powerful as well in the clinch and in other areas. And it's like, whenever you see a guy like that, or whenever see like an instance like that, it really sticks out for me. And I just think over decision, and with the way the judges are judging nowadays as well, where impact and power means an awful lot, I think Fiziev will be the one there. I think Riddell is tough. I think he's really tough. I was thinking about going for the knockout for Fiziev. I'll pull up the price of that and say that was I have it here. It's plus 420. I was looking at that for one of my flyers, but wasn't big enough for that. But yeah, maybe that might be another good bet. But plus 210 to go to decision and Fiziev to win it. I like that. I think it'll be a close fight. I do think Fiziev will win. I do think he'll win maybe 30-27. But as I said, it could be the fight of the weekend. It really, really could be. And it's one, I was plucking out a bet, and like when I looked at it first, I was like, I don't know who's going to win, so I'm just going to back someone to win by decision. And then when I saw the difference between Fiziev to win by decision and the fight to go to decision by itself, from plus 210 to minus 185, I just think that's too much of a difference to take the cowardly way out for me and not pick someone. So I'm going for Fiziev to win by decision plus 210, and I like that a lot. I don't like it a lot, but I like it a bit. I will pop through the rest of them later on, but here's my flyer for the week, and this is a big one. This is a big one. So I'm going for Rob Font to win in round 5 at plus 1900. Now, this is a big flyer. Don't get me wrong. Don't put your life savings in this or anything like that. But I was looking at the bets of this, and nothing stuck out. Nothing really stuck out to be. Jose Aldo, slight underdog at -110, probably would have been the bet I had gone for if I hadn't chosen this to be my flyer. But we've seen Aldo, we saw him against Yan, and what happened there? He lost late. Was it the fourth or fifth? I think it was the fifth round, but it was late in the fight anyway. And it was just, he had the gas for 3.5-ish rounds in him. And at a certain point, he just didn't have it in him anymore. And I think at this stage of his career, he is still good enough to fight against the very top in the world, but I don't think he's good enough to fight against, or not good enough. I don't think he's it in him to fight 5 rounds against the very top in the world anymore. Now, is Font the very top in the world right now? I'm not sure. Like, does Font have the 5-round cardio to go with Aldo? I'm not sure. Maybe he does, but I think he does. And I think his boxing is very, very good. I think Aldo's, I've spoken about this as well. I've a thing up on Aldo about his ability to, his ability to keep his style relevant until this very day. It's very, very rare you see someone keeping their style. He's adjusted it a bit. He doesn't throw as many leg kicks and things like that. But to keep the style that they've had for 15 years to still be relevant at the top of the game in MMA, in a sport that's only barely longer than that old, it's absolutely amazing that Jose Aldo is still doing that. But his ability to keep that style going along. Like, I saw someone put up an article today, and I mentioned that video I put up as well about Aldo. I like the Mark Hominick fight. And his early fights in the UFC, we need to go 5 rounds. And the kind of struggle with his cardio. But then he adjusted his game. There was such a differential that he could, lower his output a little bit to keep his cardio a little bit better. Now, I think when he goes down to 135, he has to up that output again. And it goes against his cardio, I think. And I think that's a part of it. Look, the fact he's just getting a little bit older as well, I think, is a bigger part of it. So, Font to win late here, I think, is the bet. Plus 1900 round 5. It's a flyer. You never know. It probably won't happen, let's be honest. But when I was looking at flyers, that was the one I went for. So there you go. Those are my 5 bets. I'll read them out again at the end. I'll quickly run through just the 2 cards here. Well, not all the cards, but things that maybe stand out. And just the main fight as well. So Horiguchi is, as I mentioned, -170. Pettis +145. In the co-main event there, it's Emmanuel Sanchez versus Jeremy Kennedy. Sanchez is -205. Kennedy +165. I believe the fight between Alfie Davis and JJ Wilson is off. That's a big pity. I was looking forward to that one. Cullen Huckbody is +600 against Johnny Eblen, minus 1,000. So you won't be betting on that one, I don't think. The Scoggins Hill fight, they're both -115 there, so that's close. Oliver Incamp, that was one I was looking at as well, +100. That's not a bad bet. That's not a bad bet at all against Kyle Crutchmer. I think he's a good fighter. He lost a couple of fights ago. And I think Incamp is a lot better than the guy he lost to. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one as well. There's been a slight change as well from my preview. Spike Carlisle is coming in here to fight Dan Murray. He's now -120 over Murray, who's +100. That's only changed in the last 3 or 4 days. So that's a very interesting one. Someone coming in as a big favourite on such short notice. Mike Hamill +110 over Killsman -115, or a little bit closer in some places. But yeah, those are the main fights there. Anyway, from Bellator, and it's Alexander Shabley as well. Obviously, he's another -170, +310. Bobby King on the UFC. Then Aldo straight up, as I mentioned, +111. He is here. Rob Font -131. So a slight favourite, Rob Font. Riddell +102, Fiziev -122. I think that's just about right, to be honest. Maybe I'd have Fiziev a little bit of a bigger favourite there. Clay Guida +161, -185 for Leo Dos Santos. My guy Jamahal Hill +165, -190 for Jimmy Crute. Brendan Allen. He's another guy I was looking at against Chris Curtis, but he's -350. I think that's a little bit big, to be honest. I do favour him, but when I looked at that price, I was like, ooh, I don't know. Dusa Totorovic, -150 against Maki Pitolo, +130. Manel Cape as well, -250 over Zimagulov, who's +210. Cape, you never know what Cape is going to show up. So +210 there. I'd be picking Cape to win that fight, don't get me wrong. But +210 on Zimagulov, I would not sniff at that by any shape or means at all. Jake Matthews on this card as well. He's a minus 172 favourite over Jeremy Wells. Alonzo Minifield minus 163 against William Knight. That should be a very, very good fun fight. Cheyenne Boy's on the card as well. She is the favourite at minus 175 over Mallory Martin. And there's another few fights as well there. And we will end up with Alex Morono versus Mickey Gall. Plus 180 for Mickey Gall, minus 210 for Morono. That Smolka fight still on as well. Minus 150 for Luis Smolka and plus 130 for Vince Morales. So all in all, a pretty interesting weekend in the world of mixed martial arts, and I'll give you my 5 bets again. Kyoji Horiguchi minus 170 to win straight up. Jamahal Hill plus 165. Alex Morono by decision at plus 120. Rafael even Fiziev plus 210 to win by decision, and Rob Font to win in round 5 at plus 1900. Jesus Christ. Tis so big, I can hardly even say it. But anyway, I will leave it at that. Thank you to everyone for watching. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.